Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Punting Pioneer. I'm Corbin Hostler, and it is a brand new world in the land of Pioneer, and that is why, friends, we are here to play Elf Pod this week. That is right, Kaldheim has changed the format, and we are going to have some fun with some Kaldheim cards. But I'd be remiss, obviously, if I didn't talk about the changes to the format, the massive influx of bans. And I'll say this up front. I completely understand and sympathize with anybody who had cards that were banned and now are out. Their decks, their pet deck, their favorite deck, their money over that. I completely get that. I sympathize with that. With that said, the format needed this. The format has not been fun for a while in the sense that there were only a handful of viable decks. And frankly, no one played Pioneer. It is sometimes a nightmare just to record Pioneer content because the interest in the format had simply dwindled so much. And it makes me so sad because at the beginning of Pioneer, it was one of my favorite formats ever. It felt like New Modern. It felt like you could play anything. It felt like crazy decks worked. And then all of a sudden it just got steamrolled by the power creep of the past 2 years. And I don't know if this fixes all of it, but it goes a long, long way. And that is why, friends, we are going to have some fun with some elves from Kaldheim. So let's start off with the old king himself, Harold, the king of Skimvar. It's got minutes. It's a 3/2. It's an elf. Whenever there's play, we top 5, get an Elf Warrior Tyvar card and put it in your hand. Well, guess what? We're playing Tyvar Kel. It's an elf planeswalker in the vein of the original Nissa Ravain, and this makes elves. It gives elf emblems. It allows all of our elves to tap for mana. It's a really neat card. So I said Elf Pod, though. Did I not? I did. And that is why you see it here. Pyre of Heroes. This is the birthing pod we've got. The birthing pod we deserve, if you will. Sacrifice a creature. Set your library for one with the same creature type and CMC +1. Put it onto the battlefield. And notice, we only have 1, 2s, and 3s. Not even a 4 to go get here, but you know what? It's still just powerful enough. I got the inspiration for this list from Tommy Ashton, is a well-known Magic grinder who did well with this, and that's where I started from here, and then we had some fun. So you've got your mana dorks, and the thing about elves in Pioneer is sort of defined by how many the elves are. The Elvish Mystic Llanowar Elves combination. It's the backbone of a lot of Pioneer decks, and this one's no different. But because we're playing elves, we can also play Gnarlroot Trapper. It is a different kind of mana elf here, you could say. It adds green mana at the cost of life and only for elves, but you can also give a Tarkine Elves Death Touch. So that's the 1-drop spot. At the 2, we've got some things you remember, right? Dwynen's Elite, that's a good one. Elvish Clancaller, also a good one. Pumps the team, gets more, but here we go with Kaldheim. Skimvar Avenger. Whenever a non-token elf or berserker you control dies, draw a card, lose a life. Pretty good in a deck like this. It struggles with board wipes, am I right? Then we have the Elvish War Master here. Whenever one or more elves enter the battlefield under your control, create an elf. Only happens once each turn, but it is pretty powerful for 2 mana here. And of course, at 7 mana, elves you control get +2/+2 and Death Touch. Pretty powerful. So at the 3-drop spot, somehow Steel Leaf Champion is an elf. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, given that it's not very elf-like. It's a giant undercosted beater. But hey, it is an elf. It beats down. It comes out on turn 2. It's just always going to be powerful, and that is a good one to pot into. But the best one to pot into is undoubtedly Shaman of the Pack. Whenever it enters, target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves you control. As you might guess, it's going to be quite a few, because in addition to all these other ways we've talked about of filling our board with elves, we get to play Collected Company. And when we have all those elves, we're going to use Herald Unites the Elves. You mill 3, you get to put an elf into play, then you get counters on all your elves, and then you even get more powerful abilities when you attack with your elves. This is the most enjoyable, fun version of elves I have seen in Pioneer ever. And I am excited to play it and see what the new format looks like. It is like an all-new format, people, and I could not be more excited. So, onto the sideboard. It's your favorite elf. Everyone's favorite elf. You forgot about it. Deathrite Shaman. It's some graveyard hate, but we also have Tormod's Crypts. Then kind of what you'd expect here. Thoughtseize for the combo deck's Fatal Push when you just really need some removal. Mono Black Aggro is going to be a very popular deck in the format, I think. We put the 4th Collected Company over in the sideboard here, and then a couple Stain the Mines. This has been one of my pet cards in Elves deck particularly for a very long time. It's the sort of cranial extraction type card where you can take something out of an opponent's library, and given Pioneer, we should be able to figure out what their combos are. But it has Convoke. So when your deck is full of cheap elves, this comes out for 3 mana, and it comes out very early. It's a powerful way to play this effect, and I'll tell you all, I am excited. Mana base, fairly straightforward. We've got a lot of black-green lands in here, as well as some new ones here with the black-green land from Kaldheim. So everybody, it is Elf Pod. It is Pioneer. It is back, and I'm ready to punt it. Let's get to the games. All right, friends, here we go with Elf Pod and Punting Pioneer. Our opponent gets to go first, but you know what? We have some elves, and we have a pod here with the Pyre of Heroes, so this is what we're going to do. I am very excited to get started here. Let's run out our Elvish Mystic. We don't even have to show our hand here with the the Unclaimed Territories to show that we are, in fact, an elf deck, not just an Elvish Mystic deck. Our opponent, though, Baral, I have to say, particularly on the play, I'm a little concerned. But you know what? That's what's cool about this format, I think. I think that everyone's getting to try new and cool things, and that should lead to some interesting matches today. Really excited about the future of Pioneer, or at least the opportunity to carve out a new future, because where we were at was not the most enjoyable. Let's see what we want to do here, though. We have access to 3 mana. I think we run this out and choose elf. I think it's the Clan Caller here and the Gnarl Root Trapper. That gives us access to a ton of mana for next turn. So we can play out our Pyre if we want. We could also just cast the Company. Remember, the Gnarl Root Trapper can only contribute to elf creature spells. We also have this if we get up to 6. So there it is, though. Our opponent has the Lotus Field, and they have the Baral, and there goes the Vizier of Tumbling Sands. So they're off to the races. They only have 4 cards in hand after this cycles and the 1 Lotus Field, but they now have the ability to tap and untap that Lotus Field, produce mana as they go, and of course with the Baral discounting things, it could get pretty ugly. That said, it looks like we dodged a bullet for now. 2 cards in hand, they can't do much. I would guess that they're looking at a Pour Over the Pages next turn, which is the most powerful card in that deck for sure. It draws them cards. They get untap lands, so it's pretty good. That said, they only have 2 cards in hand, so we'll see how it goes here. That's not bad either for 4 mana. So we have some decisions to make here. None of my elves can really attack. I mean, I guess I could use this to give Death Touch. That might work. I'm just thinking this one through. I kind of want to play Herald Unites the Elves. I'm not going to lie. In fact, I'm going to... I think that's what I'm going to commit to here. I'm going to attack with, of all things, the Clan Caller here. Because if my opponent blocks with Baral, great. I'm in. I'll trade it. If they block with the Grazer, who cares? We'll ping it down anyway. So, not that this matters a ton, but hey, it gets 1 blocker out of the way for later. And now we get to play out our Saga. Look, we might miss here on the first part of this if we don't get lucky. Although, we did get a little lucky. We paid 4 mana. We got a 6/5 out of the deal. That's pretty far above curve, I'm not going to lie. And it's only going to get better from here. Unless, of course, we're dead. So, we've passed the turn back to our opponent, and we're going to ask the question that, frankly, has been the problem in Pioneer for too long. Am I dead now? There were way too many decks in the format that just killed you with combos, or they ground you out with Uro. There's really not an in-between, and it didn't feel very good. But it looks like for us, our opponent has all this mana and nothing to do with it. And now things get interesting for us because we can use the Pyre of Heroes to turn something like the Clan Caller into a Shaman of the Pack for, some damage here at the end. So let's figure out what exactly it looks like. If we were to attack with the team, that's 5, 12. Oh, wow. Could this be enough? If I just turned everything sideways right now, and granted, our opponent could have counter magic or removal, of course, but if they just took it, we'd be looking at 10, 12, Ah, it's a little short, isn't it? 10, 12, 15 damage, and then we can Pyre of Heroes into a Shaman of the Pack for 4. Unfortunately, that's only 19. It's not enough. So, in that case, I think I swing with the team and just collected company at the end of their turn. I mean, frankly, this is one of those games where we did what we're supposed to do. We presented a clock. The rest is up to fate, or at least up to our opponent's top decks. But hey, never sad when we punch in for for 15, right? I really like this. Herald Unites the Elves. A powerful saga. All right, our opponent is now up to essentially infinite mana. They have 2 Lotus Fields. None of our elves are particularly interactive, so this collected company's frankly not doing a lot. And the mana production begins. They get to float 1 by cycling that Vizier of Tumbling Sands, but if they don't find anything to do with this, we're still going to win. What in the world is this? Birgi, God of Storytelling, sure. They're playing Harnfell, Horn of Bounty. Discard a card, exile the top 2. You can play them this turn. Well, that's a pretty good combo card, is it not? All right, it's a Yavimaya Coast and a Hidden Strings. And they have 1 more card in their hand they can discard. So the Hidden Strings is going to produce more mana. But without a way... I mean, they're still going to have to find something to do with it, right? Access to, by my count now, what is that? They can make 7 mana. They can go up to 8 total. A Vizier and a Fae of Wishes. Well, the Fae of Wishes is the problem, friends, because they can grant it here for 4 mana. And, of course, they can use the Vizier. You know what? It says they can play them this turn. It does not say they can cycle them. I don't think that would work. We'll see what they get with the granted here. This is interesting. And this is so cool because when this deck was just an Underworld Breach combo deck that would kill you on turn 2 or 3, it wasn't fun to play against. It wasn't a neat thing to have in the format. Decks are more fun when they have substantial failure rates. And I think that's where maybe things are at again. They're certainly in the tank on the granted, which is good. And the beauty for us is even if they were to say go get some kind of board wipe, not that I know what they'd be finding in those colors for a board wipe, although the Lotus Field, remember, can actually make mana of any color. So they could have a Wrath of God or whatever in their sideboard and actually cast it here. But the thing is, we actually have something like that beat due to the collected company. But it's all about what's in their sideboard right now. We are the beatdown, so to speak. 9 lives. Okay. I think I can beat this. They're going to cast the Vizier of Tumbling Sands. That's fine. So, 9 lives. If a source would deal damage to you, prevent that damage, put an incarnation counter on it. When they're 9 or more, exile it. When at least play, you lose the game. So, that's buying time for our opponent. But what it's not doing is protecting them from a little old card, a little friend of mine I like to call Shaman of the Pack. So we'll see what the collected company gets. Well, you know what? Pretty easy, right? We just got the Shaman of the Pack off of it immediately. Yeah, okay. And there we go. I think that should do the trick. We'll deal 6 to our opponent's face. And remember, life loss, not damage. 9 lives doesn't prevent that. We win game 1. And now, moving on to game 2, we get to put these Stain the Mines in. We get to put these Thoughtseizes in. I don't know that Deathrite Shaman is necessarily doing much for us here. What don't we want? I mean, as much as I love this card, it is pretty slow here. And frankly, the Herald the King himself is pretty slow as well. Because we don't need card advantage in this matchup. We need speed. We need ways to finish. We need reach. And that is why Shaman of the Pack has been a game changer for elf decks ever since it was printed. It certainly is doing the same thing here. It's doing very good work. So, what to move out? I'll cut one of these. I'll cut one of... I mean, at least as a 3-1, that one beats down decently well. Frankly, I'm going to remove a Gnarl Root Trapper. Really only need like one Mana Dork here. Give something like this a shot. I am very excited about the future of all Magic formats. I think that, and again, I'm someone who has a foil living index, so trust me, I feel the pain of losing my deck to this, but I mean, Cascade's always been unfair. I recorded, if you want to go back and watch me meme with a billion land Tybalt's Trickery deck last week, that's what we did, because we knew that this format was not going to last the way it was with Cascade and Modern, or Pioneer for that matter, or anything with Tybalt's Trickery. So it is, it's pretty funny that it didn't take very long at all, and here we are, not just with that card banned, but with a ton of cards banned. Wizards really brought the hammer down. I've decided if I want to keep this one, by the way, and I think I'm going to. We're on the draw, so we've got 2 shots at lands here. We have the Mana Dork. I mean, look, this hand could not work out, but it could also work out very well. I'm just excited on the new lease on life, because I think it sort of showed that regardless of how you feel about any one card that got banned, Wizards recognizes that people weren't loving what has happened to some of the eternal formats over the past few years. And hopefully this was a major step towards addressing that. And you know what? Sometimes things just work out. There's the forest for the Land of War Elves. See where things go from here. Now, Stay in the Mind, still probably a couple turns away for us. Hopefully we don't, just die next turn. But this is not a bad start by any means. And you know what? There's another land as well. So, let's see here. I guess I want the Slitherboar pathway. The old turn 2 Steel Leaf Champion. Now, next turn, if I want, I can Stay in the Mind. Now, the thing with this deck is our opponent could actually go off just right now. Fortunately, they did not. And with that said, then, I have to figure out what we want to Stay in the Mind. I could also just not Stay in the Mind, but I think I want to here. I'll choose them. All right, so we're going to choose... Let's see. What do we think is probably, especially after the... Curious what they're going to try to win with after sideboarding here. That is certainly a good question. I mean, it probably all just comes down to still the Fae of Wishes, probably, right? So I think I'm going to hit the hidden... Pour over the pages, maybe? That digs them. It just depends on what we think they have. I'm going to hit the Hidden Strings, because that's sort of the easiest one for them to have and really punish us here, I think. Okay, guess I wish I named Pour over the pages. And unfortunately, my opponent can cast it too. But let's take a look at their deck here. Mastermind's Acquisition. Yep, that'll do so. So it's Mastermind's Acquisition and Fae of Wishes that they're trying to do stuff with. It's unfortunate they had 2 Pour over their pages in hand. But you know what? No more Hidden Strings to worry about. So that is that makes it harder for them to generate mana as they go. Interesting. They can cast it now. Okay, yeah, we're just moving to second main phase here. Oh, okay. Yeah. They want to really go off, do they? Can't blame them. Okay, well, let's see what we can do. I have access to 5 mana this turn. It's probably the Clan Caller plus the War Master and the attacks from the Steel Leaf. They very well might get us next turn. That is certainly true. I'm just going to go with the Shaman here. This will put them down to... Oops, I stacked those in the wrong way. This will put them down to 11, though. And now, next turn, we can play the Clan Caller and swings. That said, we might be in trouble here. I mean, double Pour over the pages with the Lotus Fields. You know, my idea was that they only had the one Lotus Field. So even if they had a pour over the pages, it probably wouldn't be that disastrous for us, right? But I have to say the Thespian Sage in hand and the double pour was quite strong. All right, pour number 2. They've certainly drawn a lot of cards now. They have a full grip at 7, and they have access to 10 mana here. But in spite of that, they are still digging with the strategic planning. So if they stumble at all on mana, we'd be in a good spot. I do think we're probably going to die this turn, though. And Ugin, you say, well, you know what? Ugin doesn't straight beat me. -3 on the Ugin, I guess. I can company next turn. All right. Well, I'm not going to scoop quite yet, because we can do quite a bit, actually, between the Collected Company and the Clan Caller, with a good company, of course, hit on their instep, and, you know, also maybe them not doing a ton with their turn. We have the ability to maybe string together something that could compete here, right? Even if Ugin hits us, if they don't kill us, we could come up with 11 damage. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Remember, we have the Birthing Pod, the Pyre of Heroes in our deck. So even if the company gets hits, we play the Clan Caller, hit the Pyre. Well, we've got some ways to try to force through some damage here. At the very least, maybe we'll be able to interact with the Ugin. Yeah, it just didn't quite work out there. I chose to attack the card that was the most mana efficient for them, which is the Hidden Strings, given that they were somewhat light on mana, and not sort of go for the card draw, because I felt like we were out nice ahead there, and if we could slow them down, we'd have a good shot. But I have to say, Thespian Stage on top, being able to do the Lotus Field and having it all double pour over the pages in hand was not the way we wanted this to go. That said, they're still in the tank. So I would assume that we're not dead. We're going to hard cast the Birgi. Okay. Whenever you cast a spell, add red until end of turn you don't lose it. Creatures you control can boast twice. It's actually a pretty nice card for this deck, right? Adding mana when you cast a spell, pretty good in a Storm deck, is it not? The backside of this, digging you deeper, also pretty powerful. All right, they're going to cast Granted, and they've got 2 mana in the pool here. So at the very least, the Fave Wishes comes down as a blocker. It's also not ideal for us. They got Peer into the Abyss with the Granted there. 7 mana black card. Target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half their life. Round up each time. Interesting. I guess they would certainly draw quite a few cards that way. All right, well, we at least get to fire off this company and see what happens. Can't ask for much more than that once your opponent's resolved an Ugin. This looks pretty decent. Shaman of the Pack and a War Master. Make sure I stack these properly this time. We'll get the War Master trigger first so that we have an extra elf. All right, that burns our opponent down to 8. Let's see what we find. Another one, huh? Okay. So let's play the Clan Caller. I think this works, friends. Look at this. This is crazy. Play the Shaman. Put them down to 2. Attack with 3 lethal creatures at their face. We beat the resolved Ugin. That's how you do it, everybody. Welcome to New Pioneer, where the Kaldheim additions to Elves have given us possibly a new archetype that I think can compete pretty well against a lot of the top decks. That was a great experience to start off what I can honestly consider a new format. I love it. Those are the kind of games we want to play. Our opponent got to do their thing. They got to do something cool. They played new cards. We played new cards, and we got there in a tight one. Lots of fun. All right. I'm sorry. I'm a bit excited to have a Pioneer format back we can really experiment in, and this was a great way to kick things off. On to the next one. All right, here we go. More Elf Pod. We are on the play. Our opponent has revealed a Kahira, the Orphan Guard. I'm going to keep this hand. This hand is a little questionable, certainly. But we're on the play, we have a Dork, and frankly, we can play a lot of these cards, and they're very good, right? The Elvish Mystic into the War Master, into the Dwynen's Elite. I mean, these are going to give us plenty of time to find either more Mana Dorks or a black source to play the Mana Dork in our hand. So it's always a little risky and a little stressful when you keep these one-landers. But hey, if an Elf deck can't keep a one-lander with a one-mana Dork, what can, right? All right, our opponent coming in with some aggressive cards of their own over here. So right off the top, just like we drew it up. Well, I guess it's the War Master here. The thing is, I actually don't want to attack, or do I? I kind of do. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think they're going to block. I think we're getting into pointed damage here. And if they block, that's fine. Because the reality is, the Elvish Mystic, unless, of course, we draw one of the couple of 4-drops in the deck, but what we need is black mana. And if our opponent trades off their 1-drop with our 1-drop, we're going to have more time to draw. And even if, they trade off here, we're under no pressure, we get to untap. We have the Dwynen's Elite to continue to spam tokens onto our board. And then we have a Pyro Heroes, which, by the way, can sacrifice a token to go get a 1-drop. For instance, like a Gnarlroot Trapper or another Elvish Mystic. So I went a little bit into the tank deciding whether or not I wanted to attack, and it looks like my opponent is in the tank on whether or not they want to block. The reason I thought they just snap 1-int is because, look, if you're playing Leon in Vanguard, it's a pretty solid 1-drop, right? You get a gain of life, it triggers life gain, and it becomes a 2/2 for 1 if you have creatures, which, of course, that's what you want to do in your green-white aggressive deck. So I assume if they're wanting to attack, they don't want to block, and that makes my attack feel pretty safe. That said, I guess we'll see what happens here. One of the interesting things, well, I guess we have a second, I've noticed about Pioneer in the wake of these bans, is that the format was so, I'm not going to say dead, but slow and sort of solved almost, that there weren't even many brews out there, right? Like, I don't need a good deck to play on Punting Pioneer. The point's just to have fun and play a silly deck, but no one was even messing with the format. It felt just frankly bad. Now I feel like we've injected some new life. Who knows what'll come of it? I think the winners out of the gate are clearly mono black aggro. Basically, the format, in my opinion, is going to kind of move to 2 ends, right? You got Thoughtseize on one end, you've got Llanowar Elves on the other end. Maybe you have Yorion somewhere up here hanging out. But it's those are kind of where I think things are going to go. And then, the combo decks will kind of smatter in as they will. So one of the reasons that Sultai decks were so good, in addition to obviously the just absurd power of Uro, is that they could play both mana ramp cards as well as removal and Thoughtseize. And that sort of thing, I think, really gave them a lot of flexibility and made it just sort of the de facto deck to beat if you weren't comboing. And now we'll see how that works out. But there's some amount of cost, right? You can't just kind of throw Uro in and tie everything together now. So our opponent, by the way, it must be added, is not just on green-white aggro, green-white tokens. They're on green-white cats. It's a Fleece Mane Lion. And I'll tell you, does it seem silly? Sure. But cats is actually a somewhat viable mechanic. I think it's possible I've played it in the past. Or I don't remember if I've played it or simply looked at it. Somebody who has a better memory than me can let me know. But this is the beauty of a new format. Isn't 3/3 for 2 with upside good? This card's insane, right? Hexproof, indestructible, becomes a 4/4. That's powerful stuff. So let's see if we can find a black source here to make all of our dreams come true. If not, obviously, I guess hitting a clan caller here is pretty decent in itself. That doesn't really unlock any attacks for me, unless I wanted to trade the War Master for the Fleecemane Lion. I mean, that allows me to get an attack in. I do think they would make that trade. The question is, am I okay with that trade? That or I just play the Dwynen's Elite here. Yeah, I'm going to play it a little safer. I'm going to play the Dwynen's Elite. Let's just spam the board. The beauty of this is that the War Master is going to make a token, but the Dwynen's Elite itself will make a token. And we can just fill this board up with some elves, and we'll either find some black mana eventually, or we'll get this Pyre of Heroes online and go find some more gas that way. We miss an attack this turn, but I mean, hey, do I feel like I'm racing my opponent? Not really. The thing about a Fleecemane Lion, as powerful as it is, it's almost a better defensive card against us than an offensive card. You can chump block it all day long, at least as it currently stands. I have to remind everybody, though, Pride Sovereign exists. That's a pretty good one. Can exert and make tokens, but also Regal something. There's a cat. There's like a 5-mana cat that gives your cats lifelink and makes more cats when it comes into play. There are some powerful cat lords, and look, this is a pretty good 1-2-3 curve, is it not? You play a 1-1 that powers up to a 2-2. You play a 3-3 with upside. You play a 4-4 with upside. This is a heck of a curve. The problem is, for them, I also don't think they have any great attacks here. I snap trade the Dwynen's Elite with the Vanguard if it comes in, and if the Fleecemane Lion comes in, I throw the Elite in a Warrior in front of it. Literally trading my 2-drop for their 2-drop at that point, and weakening their Pride Sovereign in the process. So I don't think they have great attacks here, although they're going to do it anyway. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. I'm in. I think we profit from this deal. We ended up with we traded our 2 mana for their 2 mana. We got the extra elf token out of the War Master. We break up the cat synergies. We break off the 3 creatures. I think I'm perfectly fine with that trade. I'd take a land of any flavor right now. Collected Company is not that. Clancaller still doesn't really unlock any attacks I want to make, but the thing is, the Pyre of Heroes is also not something I'm sort of dying to do. I think we just keep playing the waiting game here. And the beauty of our deck, of this Elves deck, is that we can do that. You know, even if our opponent were to get massively ahead in sort of this token grind that we have going on here, and that is a thing they can do when it comes to exerting Pride Sovereigns and making lifelink tokens. Well, we can make some tokens too, and we have access to 4 Shaman of the packs that just go right over the top. And hey, eventually we're going to hit some black mana, right? Not quite yet, but I have to say that is a very good draw. Obviously because, hey, it's a giant creature, it makes more creatures, it's mana efficient. All of those things are true, but it also can't be blocked with creatures power 2 or less. So these tokens our opponent is going to be spitting out cannot chump block the Steel Leaf Champion. Whereas we can still chump block these Pride Sovereigns. This is a heck of a stall we're headed to, I'll say that. Very much feels like this is going to be a Shaman of the Pack game. But our hand is stacked, right? I mean, we actually have a 1, 2, 3, 4 in our hand here. We hit any land, we can Pyre or Company. Probably Company first. And if we hit black, we can go for the Herald or something else. There you go, it's a Regal Caracal. You get more life-linking cats. It also pumps your other cats. That's a 10-10. Gosh, what? Honestly, if they swing with this thing, I'm putting the Steel Leaf Champion and 2 of these tokens in front of it. Look, Shaman of the Pack is good. If our opponent has 80 life, though, the Shaman of the Pack's not quite as powerful. So, these things spitting out tokens, problematic over the long term here. Attack? No attack? I actually think it's correct for them to attack here. because they got 10/10s. That's huge with lifelink. And then again, it's the lifelink, of course. That's the most key. I actually feel like I'm pretty priced into blocking if they swing, but they may want to hold out the ability to make them even bigger, to get them out of blocking range and just keep spitting out those tokens. And looks like they're going to pass the turn back for us. Looky there. Some black mana. All right. This is also a plan. They don't get trampled with this thing. It's not quite an overrun, but it does make them pretty big. It's Herald. We might find, like, another Mana Dork or whatever. Elf Warrior or a Tyvar card. Or it's a company. I think it's a company. It's more mana efficient. The alternative, though, this is a reasonable line to think about, at least. I could play the Pyre of Heroes and the Gnarlroot Trapper. I mean, heck, I could play the Pyre of Heroes and sack a token into a Gnarlroot Trapper if I really wanted. It's kind of a hard call here. I could also play the king, but that would be probably the worst option of all of them. I think I'm going to cast the company. Keep our opponent... I mean, look, it's a pretty telegraphed collected company, but it at least makes our opponent think about what their attack is. We have the ability to get more mana this way than we would by just casting the Gnarlroot Trapper. I think it's just the highest upside play, and given that it's the most mana efficient, I think it's where we want to be. The catastrophe over there, though, it's all kinds of stuff. $12-12 Pride Sovereigns. Pretty big. They attack, they gain 24 life, they go to 46. Can I even win? The thing is, gosh, you know what? I don't know if I can. Do I win? I thought I would win this long game battle here. I don't know, though. These are massive. And they just get bigger, right? They just get bigger every time, thanks to their own ability. So we'll see what we find off the company. All right, it's Shaman number 1 and a Mana Dork. Okay. Well, look, that does hit him for quite a bit. It's a 12-12. I'd have to put 3 tokens and the Steel Leaf in front of it. I think that's okay. I actually think that's okay. We had a pretty solid company there. I do want to make sure I'm not missing anything here, but I believe I've put... Oh, I need to put 2 more because this thing can exert... Okay, fine. But you know what? I think I'm okay making this trade. We lose essentially 1 creature out of the deal, and now our mana situation's getting going. We have the Pyre of Heroes. The thing with attack, with blocking this Pride Sovereign and taking it off the battlefield is it at least makes them choose between it makes them choose between growing their board with the other one in future turns or swinging for a massive amount, as opposed to that way they got to do all of it, right? And that obviously wasn't great. It wasn't going to be great for us. Okay, so now we're in a slightly different position here. I can go another Steel Leaf Champion plus the Pyre. I could go King plus the Pyre. I think I want the Steel Leaf Champion plus the Pyre. Now, it is a little unfortunate here that our opponent has so much life and has all these tokens, but our own life total is somewhat healthy. I'm going to be honest, I'm most scared of, frankly, the thing my opponent's probably going to do on their next turn, which is just turning everything sideways. As long as we're in this sort of stall, I can lean on the idea of these Shaman of the Packs going the distance. If my opponent says screw it and turns it all sideways at me, they're going to gain 1,000,000,000 life on the attack. I only have medium blocks now that we've sort of tapped like this. We need another turn or two to rebuild. That's absurd. It's a lot of cats, friends. If they hit attack all, we might be dead. Kind of looks like an attack all. This is disgusting. I don't think I can win. I'm going to be quite honest with y'all. I don't think we can get it here, right? We can, look, we can eat a cat, right? We can do it. We get to eat a free one. Everything else is a trade, and they're not very good trades for me. What would this send through? 9 and 12? That's too many. Even if I block another one, it's still 18. My blocks have to look like this. There's no way we're winning from that position. Good game. This is where we want those fatal pushes. And the collected companies. Probably some... I mean, I don't know if Thoughtseize is incredibly important, but... Yeah, I mean, look, I do... Gosh, I feel like our deck is just better with Thoughtseize in it. Which is, you know, frankly, probably true of quite a few decks. But we only have so many things we can cut. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we just try to go bigger this time. Our opponent, that had to be a pretty good draw on their part, right? That was kind of insane what all they had there. We'll get a couple removal spells into the deal here. And look, I really wanted those Thoughtseizes for the Regal Caracals, but I don't know. I don't know how much we can do with our own deck because we are faster than a cat deck in a world where things kind of go the way we want them to. And I think this is a keep. This is not the best. By the way, I didn't even bring this up. Usually when you see Kaheera the Orphan Guard, the companion clause is that each creature card in your starting deck is a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast. Well, in reality, what happens is your opponent plays 0 creatures in their deck and they have Kaheera as their companion. Although, in this case, it really is just a cat. Each other creature you control that is those things gets +1 in vigilance. That's a neat deck. That's a neat deck. I like it. Our hand has everything we want. It's got removal. It's got a clan color. It's got a pyre, but it's actually not super powerful. And this is what I was talking about, diluting the deck a little bit with, you know, if we'd had even more kind of non-elf cards, right? You don't usually want your elf deck to only have 2 elves to start with. So I feel pretty good about drawing into stuff, but if something like, well, specifically this happens, and we flood out instead, you know, this hand could take a while to get going. We could always Pyre of Heroes away the Llanowar Elves into the Dwynen's Elite to get a token that we could then have on the next turn, etc. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to take this. I'm just going to go ahead and push this thing now. I could trade. I'm going to take the 1. Alright, give me a creature deck. That is a creature. Unfortunately, it is not an incredibly powerful creature, but it is a creature nonetheless. So we'll play the Nara Root Trapper, we'll play the Pyre of Heroes, and then we'll just attack and go from there. The Nara Root Trapper does serve as a blocker for the Sacred Cat. And I have to say, you know, Sacred Cat into Johnny's Pridemate is a pretty decent curve. By the way, this is a cat as well. I'm just definitely playing cats on Punting Pioneer in the future now. It's if I have played it, I don't recall playing it with Kaheera, so I have to give something like this a shot. This looks like a lot of fun over there. But we have a blocker. Our opponent doesn't have a good offense. This is what I was talking about. Look how further ahead we are now. We get to play out another land, have access to 5 mana with the elves if we need it. We're starting to creep up on that place where we start to clan caller. You know, things are looking all right here. Call the bluff on this block. I mean, it is sort of free. The thing has Embalm. You get sort of 2/1/1 life linking cats for the price of one here. But instead, oh wow. That's pretty good. Atarka's Command. Their cat fights my Claim Caller, takes it out. That shrinks my Gnarlroot Trapper. What a blowout. Their creature still died because it took one from the Claim Caller and one from the Gnarlroot Trapper. So not quite as bad as things could have been there. And I'll tell you what, Collected Company is certainly a very welcome draw off the top here. I think I just pass. I could have companied main phase, and if I hit a Lord, then I can attack with the Llanowar Elves. But again, not that company is ever particularly. Gosh, that's a cat too. Not that company's ever particularly subtle, but it is always just fine. There's a chance our opponent swings in with the cat here, and we get a chance to eat it. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. And that is certainly not a whiff. That's very good for us, and you're going to see why in a minute. The Steel Leaf Champion gets to eat the token. Which is, I mean, hey, it's not irrelevant given the Brimaz and the Leonin Vanguard here, but look. Skimgar Avenger, whenever another non-token elf dies, you draw a card, you lose a life. Here we are with no cards in hand. And the ability now to make some stuff happen. So look at this. Steel Leaf Champion comes down. I swing with this Steel Leaf Champion. Beautiful. Okay, so get our damage in, and now look. Pyre away the Llanowar Elves. That triggers the Skimgar Avenger. We get a draw a card, lose a life. That's a nice one to hit. And now we gotta go get a 2-drop to put directly into play, and I'll tell you what, I think I'll be getting a War Master. Card is very powerful. And obviously, I guess in retrospect, if we were going to get a War Master, I should have played the other Steel Leaf second. So small misplay there. But hey, we're figuring it out as we go. All right. The catting begins. But we have an engine, friends. We have an engine working over here. The War Master, double War Master, it's going to be. Pyre for whatever we want. We can trade with the Brimaz if they come in with it. We're going to get a draw cards as we do it. Our opponent has no cards in hand. I'm feeling much, much better about this game than our position in that first one. Although I will keep Dromoka's Command. I might have mispronounced it earlier. Dromoka's Command in mind for the future, because that is a very powerful card. Instant speed as well. So, all right, what's the decision? You're coming in with Brimaz. Okay. You want to trade for my Steel Leaf Champion? I'm in. Because you know what? That Brimaz makes tokens every turn, and the Steel Leaf Champion does not. So, get that thing out of here. Oh, by the way, we get to draw another card. And look at all the options. All right, let's think this one through here. Do I want to swing first? I could play a War Master here and a Clan Caller and then swing. And that is the order I'd want to do it in so that we grow this thing. Yeah, I guess I'm in. Oh, I cannot do that, friends. I can play double War Master. I cannot play War Master plus Clan Caller. We don't have the triple green that would be needed. So I guess in that case, swing in with the Steel Leaf. Fortunately, our opponent's creatures, none of them are larger than the 3/3 cat and the big cat, the Cat Lord, and the 2/2s. And they have no cards in hand. So I think we're going to be in a decent spot here playing the game out this way. Just having these tokens, even if they're 1/1s. We should hopefully have enough of them that we should be able to overwhelm this board pretty quickly. And then our opponent's going to have some very good draws. I'm sure Collected Company's in their deck as well. But look at that. The elf tokens begin. Our opponent whiffed on that one. A land and nothing to do with it, right? Unlike our clan. And that's the thing when you start comparing tribal decks. They've got some cool stuff. Kahira's coming down is what's happening. That's what they have access to, right? They get Kahira by doing this. We get access to Clan Callers for our mana and Pyre of Heroes and things like that. So let's see what they feel like doing on combat here. I mean, their attacks actually look much better hitting that land for Kahira, but we can also take some hits, so we'll see what happens. I have enough War Masters. Frankly, I'm fine throwing at least one of them in front here. I think I'm going to do this. We'll just take one out of the loop. We'll this way we don't take too massive of a hit. We'll take 6, go down to 9, and remember we're going to lose a life and draw a card here. But things still, I think, look to be in a pretty decent position. We can also keep our Seal Leaf Champion back as a blocker now. All right, let's play out a Clan Caller. Opponent has quite a bit of life, it must be said. I guess I'm just going to Pyre away a token, I think. This has to be activated as a sorcery, right? Yep. You could get rid of this to go get a 3, but I think I'm just going to throw away... What do I want to pitch? I guess it's a token because it's sort of free, right? We're going to end up with a 2-2 regardless, except our 2-2, if we keep it around, we'll be able to make mana. And now I could get the Gnarlroot Trapper as well if I really wanted. I just want to land a War Elves, though. Yeah, probably should have played the Tomb there. But the problem for our opponent is that with our 6/5 blocker, unless they top deck very well here, they lose all the free attacks they had. And then Johnny's Pridemate is pretty good, frankly. It gets counters from this already. But the point is they don't have any good attacks. But it doesn't necessarily get better if they don't attack for them. Because now we're fully off to the races, right? We can now start getting Clan Callers. We can now... Yeah, there's a company. I'm going to Pyre the Land of War Elves away, I think. I'm happy to just draw this game out. I'm going to have to get rid of this thing eventually so we don't lose to it. Lose to our own effect. But I feel good about where we're building our board. We have an engine and they have top decks. So, and we're going to hit all the companies in the world, too. All right, this time I can get a 2, and I'm going to go get a Jwynen's Elite. Make all kinds of tokens, and we're still going to have a company on their turn. So I think we're just going to be able to go wide enough here. And also, remember, this triggers off of non-token elves dying. So as long as we have tokens to throw in front of things, we can't even sort of get forced into the kind of attack from our opponent where we lose to our own triggers, which is, if I were on their side, something I'd be considering. But yeah, this will spam the board. I mean, look, we're getting 3 tokens out of the deal, plus the Jwynen's Elite. We pass the turn. We have a Collected Company. The turn after that, we'll have Clan Caller activations. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure our opponent has cards that can get them out of this situation here, but I honestly feel like we're in a pretty good spot. And remember now, we're 1 land away from just activating these War Masters and giving everything +2. Our opponent has quite the life cushion to work with. But what they don't have are good attacks. And as you notice, our board of elves keeps growing, and it's just going to take a shaman of the pack or two to just knock this life total down massively. So, yeah, this is a very, very good position for us. So let's see what they want to do here. Second main phase. 4 mana, 5 mana to Caracal. Well, that's a good one. Some pretty big cats over there. I have to say, this is not the tribal battle I expected in Pioneer. Okay, well, Jordan's Elite and a Elvish Mystic, not exactly the most powerful of hits, but obviously in this case, anything like this is perfectly fine. We're going to have a lot of elves, and depending on what this next company hits, this is a situation where I'd have to do some math on the end of this here, but who knows? We might just be able to double shaman the pack our opponent out of the game. Because it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14, 15. We have 15 elves in play. So, yeah, see what happens, I guess. I mean, heck, the way this is going, when you have a board stall in game 3, our opponent might just time out. All right, that's a land. Going to just fire off this collected company first, I think. Or do I feel actually? Let me think that one through again. Do I actually feel like I'm under any pressure? Because we're missing triggers if we don't company on their turn. Sorry, I'm just thinking this one through here. I actually think I'm going to throw away the Elvish Mystic. We get to draw another card, which is a pretty decent one. And we get to go get a 2-drop. Probably just another Dwynen's Elite. Oh, we're out of them. I guess it's Clan Callers all the way here, but even that is fine. We even get a pass with 6 mana open now, so we have another Clan Caller activation up. I'm feeling very confident in just letting this game go as it is. All right, they are tapping mana. It's another Regal Caracal. So I got a lot of elves. They got a lot of cats. I have to say, I'm trying to rack my brain here. I don't know if I've ever seen any media with elves and cats in it. You ever see anybody in Lord of the Rings walking around petting their cat, you know? I've never seen Elrond sitting at the council, just his cat jumps up on his lap. Yeah, they go to Lorien. Galadriel doesn't have any cats. Celeborn, I believe, is her husband. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go deep in the Lord of the Rings knowledge here. The point is, no cats anywhere to be seen. Unlike our opponent's board, where there's a billion of them, but I don't really see how they get out of this one. If they swing with everything, they're at least not going to be dead. They'll have enough life that we're not just going to ping them out. But none of those attacks are good for them. And it looks like they've reached the same conclusion. So sending in the ones they care less about to try to get some life back. Let's see what we find with our company here. Well, it's as close to a whiff as it gets, I guess. The really unfortunate part for my opponent, besides the fact they just took a clean 20 from that shaman of the pack, is that these tokens are the kind where they're 3/3s, right? So putting 2 of them on these 5/5 cats coming in is going to lead to them, sure, having a lot of life, but it's still a 1-for-1 trade. This is what I meant when I said they have no good attacks, because, I mean, look, they don't. Yeah, it's a bunch of 1-for-1 trades, except for the part where we get to eat one of them. So we're not going to draw any cards here. They're going to gain a ton of life, but we have the engines and they don't. Except for this Pride Mate engine, it's certainly, that one's working out. It's pretty big, but without the Pride Sovereigns to spit out tokens, we're just going to get ahead. We're just going to pull further and further ahead here. That's another Shaman of the pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 15. I play the Shaman, it'll be 18. I can then get another Shaman and do another 18. I can do 36 damage to my opponent this turn. Not quite enough. I have enough mana to play both of these things, or to Pyre. I'm just going to Pyre. I think I'm just going to Pyre away a token. All I want to do is just continue getting more tokens because their board is smaller than it was, and ours is essentially not, right? So, excuse me. This works out pretty well for us. I even get to add another massive creature here with the Steel Leaf this other Steel Leaf Champion. Oh, I say that. I tapped wrong. Yeah, Punting Pioneer, everybody. I don't think that one will haunt us. Think we'll be okay. Unless they surprise me with some kind of direct 5 damage here, this game is slipping further away for them and more into our corner, because I think that the next turn, if they, depending on what they do, and if it's this, I think Double Shaman of the Pack will get there. All right, we'll play this one out. All right, let's see how much it is. They're at 44. This is the easiest way to count how many elves I have. All right, we have 21. All right, so the next Shaman of the Pack is also not lethal. Good to know. However, I can just continue to throw away these elves and get ones that do something. Although in this case, I guess it actually doesn't do anything other than really take one out of the deck. But frankly, that's fine. Our opponent's at a super manageable life total. They don't have any cards in hand. Their clock's going to be an issue in Game 3. Not that I want to win that way. But this one seems pretty wrapped up for us, frankly. Look at this. Whenever Leonin Warleader attacks, create 2 cats with lifelink. They're tapped and attacking. I bet this deck is insane against Mono Black Aggro. This cat deck is struggling against us. I'm sure there's matchups where it doesn't look very good. But against Mono Black Aggro, one of the more popular decks of the format, I bet it's very good. All right, how many elves do we have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 15, 19, 21. All right, I think this will do it. Jwynen's Elite, get out of here. Shaman of the Pack, get in here. What a game. What a wild matchup, frankly. This is sweet. We did it. We had exactly 23 there. And on to game number 3. Gosh, I almost want this thing back. It was so good, but 2 is fine. I wish I had more Fatal Pushes. Fatal Push, very important and good against their deck. I mean, hitting this on like turn 3 would also be pretty good, right? I'm doing it. I'm putting in a Thoughtseize. I want to draw 1 Thoughtseize, and I want to play it on turn 2. That's what we're gonna do, everybody. These Nara Root Trappers are just by far the worst mana dork in the deck, because it's not like giving our creatures Death Touch when attacking is hugely relevant in this matchup. It's more of a go wide game, not a can we make our 1/1s trade up type of game. I think I'm shipping this. No 1-drop. No, I mean, this isn't, frankly, both of these are engine, but they're so slow. Yeah, much better. Much better. Steel Leaf Champion on turn 2, beat down. If that doesn't work, we've got some follow-up. Now, there are no engines in this hand, but Collected Company can find those right on off the top. All in all, doesn't seem like a bad mulligan. And the Steel Leaf Champion, obviously we talk about it as an attacker because of how powerful it is, mostly as an attacker. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. That's obviously very, very strong and important, and so on. But hey, it's also a 5/4 blocker, and when your opponent's playing a bunch of things that work out to be 2/2s and 3/3s, that's not so bad. Well, whatever our opponent has on turn 2, it's not a Leonin, whatever, the thing that gains life, or when it counters when it gains life, Ajani's Pridemate. However, this works out pretty well for us. We can play a Painless Steel Leaf Champion here. We could also play a Mystic and a Clan Caller, which then next turn will give me access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana on our next turn, if I were to do that. But that's not necessarily more important for anything. So let's do this. Stops them from attacking us, possibly allows us to attack them. We have a Collected Company available. Let's see what the cat spell on 3 is. It is a Pride Sovereign. That's pretty good. That's why we wanted the Steel Leaf Champion around. Well, honestly, I mean, look, if the board's... I don't want to win this way, but if the board stalls out, our opponent's probably going to time out before we can actually kill them. Just, this game has gone like all the others have gone, where we're both sort of building up our boards. And, I could attack if I want here. I think I do want. They trade with this thing. I love it. Probably not what's going to happen. Yeah, we'll telegraph another company. That's fine. I'm really hoping the company hits some of the engine type cards we're talking about. That's one of the reasons why I'm kind of sandbagging some of these cheap drops too. And looks like our opponent realized that they weren't going to get there. If they're flooding out, they see what we've got going on. Making a bunch of tokens isn't going to beat us. I wish they hadn't have scooped right there, but this was too good of a match to pass up. We were actually going to get nothing but a Steel Leaf Champion from that Collected Company. That said, it would have been a 5/4, messes up their attacks. We then untap into the Clan Caller and the Avenger. Look, this game was set up to go on for a long time. That's why you play fast on Magic Online, friends. The clock is as much a part of the game as anything else. And this match was heading for a board stall to end all board stalls. But you know what? That was incredible. The 80 damage we burned with Shaman of the Pax in this one, everybody. That was a great match. On to the last one. Let's see if we can pick up another win. All right, more elves. See if we can round things off on another win here. Looks like we are on the draw, but double elf. Oh, I mean, heck, triple Mana Dork start if we want it. Meanwhile, our opponent, what is this? A Wasteland Viper with a Blood Rush. Okay. Blood Rush is a powerful ability. People have forgotten about it. But it was very powerful on cards like Gore Clan Rampager. It used to be a modern playable card. It's a powerful ability. And this one, giving Death Touch, is also not bad. Well, look at that. It's, I guess it's going to be Elves and Sagas for Days. The Saga of Herald. I don't know much about the Kaldheim lore. I have no idea if it's Herald or Herald or anything, but I do know that I am a big fan of the card. And this was an interesting decision I had to make here, right? And it's possible it would have been better to play the Overgrown Tomb to just take the hit. But we'll see here. We're going to take damage. It was probably better to play the Overgrown Tomb there, but like obviously if we hit a forest or something here, you know, we wouldn't have wanted to do that, so we'll see. Is that a No. Okay, they do have a second land over there. Yeah, that's what I should have done, because obviously I'm just going to end up shocking it in this turn. All right, well, we cost ourselves a little bit of life there, but hey, life goes on. Oops, what am I doing? There we go. Well, now next turn, we in fact have plenty of mana, although, again, I must note that the Naaru Trapper can only make mana for elves. So we have 5 mana next turn if we don't draw a land, but we can only use that mana for certain things. So fortunately, though, we should have 4 to play this card. What is this? Whenever a creature... Yep, we have found the reason for the Death Touching. This is a great card. It drains for 1 whenever a creature with Death Touch attacks. So look at that. This is actually just a massive hit. And I'm going to have to take it. So, oof. Yeah, I think I definitely cost myself a point of life here. Right? Because I could have played this and this on turn 1. I kind of missequenced that. And then I could play this and this, and we wouldn't have had to activate this. So, cost myself a point of life. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us here. Let's see what we find. See, now we start to get some options. Now, I think it makes the most sense to just play this and hope to mill 1. So that's what I'm going to do. But if we miss, it's going to feel kind of bad. So we'll see. This game's a lot easier if we just don't miss, right? Ooh, we did not miss. I can Shaman of the Pack. I don't really want that, though. What I want to do... I mean, look, if Harold's uniting the elves, Harold should come to the party, should he not? Welcome, King. I always appreciate a king who fights on the front line. No one likes somebody who stands in the back and doesn't get out there with the troops. And I'll tell you what, I think I'll get me a Steel Leaf Champion to hand. Not bad for the first chapter of the saga. Am I right? Look, ignoring the fact that milling yourself can obviously have powerful, effects and magic in general, and it can set up future ones and so on. We paid 4 mana to get a 3 mana card into play. That's really not so bad when the upside of that is all of the rest of the things we get from this. Now, it's a big attack. I can't say I'm particularly excited about how much damage we're taking, but I will be double blocking this thing, without a doubt. It's actually mildly annoying that this is the one these death touches for 1 mana in green. They're almost always 1/1s. This one is in fact a 1/2, and that makes a bunch of difference right now. But I have to try to get this Lord out of here, and they can only take out 1 of my creatures. So even that works out okay. Now we get to grow all of these to be big enough to trade. I can play another one if I want. In fact, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to suck it up and, well, I tell you what, if I do tap all my mana that way, then we get hit. I don't really want to get hit. If they draw another one of these Hooded Blight things, we could just lose to the attack step. So I think maybe we are going to slow things down a little bit here. And I'm going to play the Steel Leaf Champion and the Dwynen's Elite. My opponent, by the way, representing Collected Company here. Pretty obviously, I would think. So we'll have a chump blocker with an elf. We'll have another elf that can trade with one of the Wasteland Vipers, hopefully. And then the Steel Leaf Champion can maybe block something that comes off of this company hit. And this is a pretty wild ability right here. Whenever an elf you control attacks this turn, target creature an opponent controls gets -1 until end of turn. I mean, I could be wrong, but that feels pretty powerful to me, right? If we have 5 elves, all it takes is an attack step to just completely mess with their board. But everybody's on Collected Company these days, and we'll see how bad it is. Cross our fingers. It's not something like double Hooded Blightfang. We would just be dead if that were the case in this particular Golgari mirror. Instead, though, a pretty bad whiff from our opponent. Look, I've been there with company. Finn the Fangbearer. Death Touch, whenever a creature you control Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, they can play with 2 poison counters. So, If I understand this ability correctly, it's not infect, and it's also not poisonous from Time Spiral. It's an additional triggered ability. So we would take the death touch damage from these, we'd go to 4, but then we would also get 4 poison counters. So that kills people pretty quick, right? And here they come on in. I am blocking everywhere. No more damage, please. Don't hurt me with all of this. All right. A lot of trades. They still get to keep 1. That's fine. Their company was not great. We get to untap here, have access to a fair amount of mana. We get to, take out this thing by attacking with 2 elves, if that's what we want to do. Hitting land is very nice. I am going to attack with 2 elves, by the way. The damage not super relevant, but hey, it's a removal spell, right? And then we can follow up with another Herald Unites the Elves if we want. Gosh, this is really neat though. This is like kind of a wholly different ability for elves, right? This removal type thing that's tied to it. That's pretty neat. So I could either play both of these. That's what I'm gonna do. It's that or the Herald Unites the Elves. Let's play both of these. Then we'll play the Herald Unites the Elves, assuming things are still looking to be in a good spot for us then. We'll nuke our opponent for 5. Collecting Company number 2, I would assume. Oh, wow. Activating Castle Locthwain, that is not what they wanted to do. They did not want to spend 4 mana to lose 3 life and draw a card when we removed their creature and added 2 to our board. This looks much more promising for us after that. And keep in mind here, I have another Herald Unites the Elves. I can use that to get back a Steel Leaf Champion, a Dwynen's Elite if we just need blockers. Even the Herald himself. I remember losing to this card in Limited. Whenever Isareth the Awakener attacks, you may pay X. If you do, return a creature with X battlefield CMC to the battlefield with a corpse counter on it. Huh? Okay. Well, let's see what they do and see what we find. Gifted Aetherborn is always powerful. Death Touch Tribal, what we're playing against here. Cat Tribal, Death Touch Tribal. We're Elf Tribal. Love it. Let's see. The thing is, now I could Pyre, but I couldn't Pyre into a Shaman of the Pack. I actually don't have any 2-drops to do so. I could attack with everything here. Is there a shot? And then if they trade with the Shaman of the Pack, there's a Shaman of the Pack in my graveyard. All right, I have to think. If I swing with all my creatures, I get in for, except for the Gnarlroot Trapper, I would get in for 7-8 damage, which obviously is quite threatening to my opponent. And then we could play the Herald Unites the Elves. Oh wait, there's already a Shaman of the Pack in the graveyard. Okay. Okay. If we swing with everything, they get to eat. We get a trade, but they go up to 13. We get in 3 damage. So they're going to lose 1. They're going to go down to 10. And then we Herald Unites the Elves to get back that Shaman Pack. That's not lethal. On the other hand, Isareth getting a trigger off is also not very good for us. But it's not lethal. It's not lethal if I swing with just the Shaman here. Yeah, it's a bit of a decision point, but I'm going to do this because if they do something silly, like take 7 damage, then we're going to kill them. So there's, a lot of ways this goes wrong for them, and only a couple in which it goes right. This is not what they wanted to do. I'd like to give my attacking elf death touch. We did it. The Gnarlroot Trapper Clause came up. Love it. My opponent at this point seems sufficiently likely out of this game. I'm going to use Herald Unites the Elves to bring back our friend Herald. That or Steel Leaf Champion. Steel Leaf Champion was certainly in the game a little faster. But even Herald Unites the Elves would be lethal, right? Because I'd have 6, 8 plus 4. That's 12. Yeah, that's lethal no matter what. I'm going to get Herald here. That way, you know, if our opponent does something, you know, removal-wise, we'll have a little more gas in the tank here. Pyre of Heroes, I haven't talked much about it, even though we've used it to great effect. Maybe I'd put a 4-drop in the deck just for the fun, but we haven't missed it. I haven't missed. I don't even know what the 4-drop I would get is, right? I like the Tivar at the 4. I don't even know what elf creature I would get it for. So it's pretty good just fetching up those Shaman of the packs, though. It's basically a Quarter Calling, right? Quarter Calling does that a lot, and it kind of functions in that way sometimes. So our opponent's going to use the Swift End on Herald. The king is down. I suspect the Murderous Rider will now hit the battlefield, but this doesn't... Oh, an Isareth. Okay. Well, the game continues, does it not? We don't have lethal. And my opponent having that Murderous Rider, I'm pretty glad I punt Pioneer quite a bit. But sometimes I make okay plays, and I have to say getting this in case they had a removal as opposed to just getting the Steel Leaf leaves us in a much better spot now because Isareth can do some pretty disgusting things if given the opportunity. I'm going to swing with 2 elves, I think. These 2. Then I'm going to play Steel Leaf Champion and another War Master. So this should knock our opponent down. They have no cards in hand. I don't think we're going to lose to this thing. It just comes back. It's not attacking. We have to worry, obviously, about them getting back this thing, but... Wow, they're just taking it. They actually just... Wait a minute. Well, I still don't have a 2-drop, I guess, so I still can't sacrifice one to go get a Shaman of the Pack to finish them off. But this play is still pretty good. Now we've got some blockers, and this is obviously kind of the last turn for our opponent if we get to attack with our second Herald Unites the Elves trigger of the game that would certainly be over. So I suspect they're up against it here. And as a matter of fact, they're underneath it. Whatever the analogy is, we won the game. You know, I think it's time for old Deathrite Shaman to make an appearance. I say that we're gonna have to make some cuts. Maybe this. We've still got the Dwynen's Elite to use when we want a token. But Deathrite, those Isareth, whatever. Those are kind of annoying. And look, it's not like Deathrite Shaman's ever particularly a bad card, right? We have Herald Unites the Elves and can even do some stuff. I'm just gonna play one of them. I'm going to play one of them and get the Dwynen's Elite back in here. I actually think I want the Dwynen's Elite more than the other Steel Leaf Champion. Our opponent's playing Death Touch Tribal, so the Steel Leaf Champion isn't exactly going to be beating anything in combat. It's just gonna trade with all those Death Touch creatures. I want the Collected Company probably if we go to a game 3. We'll see. I don't know. I felt fine. I actually felt pretty good about that first game, just the way it played out and the way I think these decks are going to match up. And I feel pretty good with this hand here as well. This in Quagmire, okay. Oh, there's a Pyre. It's pretty good in the long term. But look at this. Next turn, we get to go. I mean, this is a very powerful hand on our part. We get to play the War Master out, plus the Naaru Trapper, starting the token generation as early as turn 2. Then on turn 3, we can play Herald Unites the Elves if we want. We've got access to this Pyre. I mean, anytime Birthing Pod is like the last card you're going to play because you probably don't even need it, things are looking up, I'd say. All right, War Master down. This card's great. I love this one. This is a very nice addition to Elves. All right, let the tokens begin. Honestly, if my opponent attacks... Oh, I don't... You know what? I don't have a third land. I would say if my opponent attacked with this, I might put these two creatures in front of it, trade with it, with the intention of just getting the War Master back immediately. But, one, that's not going to happen because we're going to get Thoughtseized here. Probably going to take the Herald Unites the Elves. Might get scared of the Pyre Heroes, though. But we only have access to 3 mana currently next turn because, remember, the Nara Trapper, of course, can only add mana for elves. So we did not have enough to cast this without drawing a land, and regardless, it's going to hit the bin. I still feel pretty reasonable here, though. Yeah, I wish I'd give me that Deathrite Shaman. They're giving me so many targets I could ramp. Play Legacy here. Well... Legacy like 18 bands ago anyway. There is the land. And I like that because I'm going to play Dwynen's Elite and I'm going to play the Pyre of Heroes. Setting me up for a huge board of tokens. My opponent having to deal with whatever we're going to get next turn from this. We still have the other elf here. I guess I could swing with this if I wanted. Get our 1 point of damage in. Nara Trapper coming in clutch, I guess. I have to say, when I looked at the deck, I did not expect this to come up very often. Because usually, if you have a bunch of elf tokens, you're just gonna go wide, right? What is giving them Death Touch matter? But hey, we've had a couple situations where that line of text on Nara Trapper has come in handy. It's obviously the worst mana dork in that it takes black instead of green to cast, which is honestly kind of difficult given how much of our deck makes green. But having to pay life and having the mana restricted to elf creature spells, that all makes it far worse than an Llanna War Elves or an Elvish Mystic. But hey, I guess the Death Touch is coming in handy here. It is Death Touch tribal matchup after all. Speaking of, the Death Touch Lord itself has arrived, the Hooded Blightfang, but their attacks are not good for them. They're going to Thoughtseize away our Llanna War Elf. That's frankly perfectly fine with me. And now, engines, y'all. It's all about engines, and we've got one right here. Oh, it's got this Clan Caller. I don't think I have 11 damage if I go get a Shaman of the pack. I think we have, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we would not quite have enough. And this has lifelink? Yeah, I don't think I could even attack for lethal here. I think then I'm just going to do a setup. I'm going to Pyre of Heroes away this token, I believe. Yep. Just go get a mana dork. Like, say, a Deathrite Shaman. It turns out having tutors in your deck's pretty good, and Birthing Pod, even when you put a restriction on it like a tribal synergy, it's still Birthing Pod. And Deathrite Shaman is still Deathrite Shaman. So now we exile those Thoughtseizes to drain them. We can get mana, not that we need it now. We can gain life. This game is all but wrapped up. As a matter of fact, all it might take is sending the... I'd have to do the math here. I don't know if we quite get to 11, but... All right, the Swift In comes down on the Clan Caller. Honestly, not a big deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do I have lethal? Now I do. This should be this should do it, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like plenty to me, friends. Ship the Dwynen's Elite. Go get the one and only Shaman of the pack, and that is how you 3-0 pioneer with Elf Pod, guys. That is the matchup. That was a fun one. Let's go look at this deck Would we change anything? I don't know. Probably not. Frankly, look, I put the heralds, whatever you want to call them. I put them in here. I don't know if this card is huge here. Some versions I saw didn't have this at all, kind of this package. But I think it's pretty good, and I think that when you have this, this card bringing stuff back, and you have this card getting stuff out, it's pretty powerful to have not quite silver bullets, but sort of cards you can go get that have some value. So I'm sure there's changes you can make to this deck. I'm sure there's ways to improve it, but I feel like if you're looking at Pioneer, this brand new exciting Pioneer format we have, and you want a place to start, there are a lot worse places to look than this. You might want to play the Fourth Galactic Company in the main deck, but this is a place to be for Pioneer. Everybody, thank you so much for watching Punting Pioneer. As always, I'm Corbin Hostler. I'll see you next week.